Let me try again. Okay. Great. So welcome everyone to a really special edition of Digital Lunch. I am really excited to welcome my good colleagues in Archaeology Data Service and the Heritage Science Data Service. And it is really very much an artifact of Professor Julian Richards being here at the University of York that has led to our great strengths in digital archaeology, in digital heritage, and our excellent legacy of work in this region. And it's just really exciting to see that rather than just coasting, we're going from strength to strength. And I've just watched the archaeology data surface grow within my short time here, relatively short time here, to being really huge and taking on a lot of my really wonderful students as well. And so I'm really excited to see what they're going to present for us today. All right, go ahead and take it away, Julian.
Okay. Okay, hopefully we've got rid of the echo. Thank you very much, Colleen, for that generous introduction. Yeah, I'm joined by a few of my colleagues to give you just a flavour. Okay, so I'm giving you a background to the HSDS, which those of you who don't know is part of the Riches programme, which is a big new £80 million investment from the HRC in research infrastructure for conservation and heritage science. And they've funded 31 projects out of this with 144 partners and one heritage science data service. Our mission statement is to unlock the potential for innovation in heritage science and conservation research. And we are central to the whole Riches programme because we're providing a catalogue of the distributed research facilities and services, a catalogue of data and reference collections, a fair repository for research data, and a suite of virtual research environments and software tools to allow researchers to visualize and analyze their data. Tim's going to, I think, later show some more details of the wider team, but I just thought I'd introduce the core HSDS team there. Some of them are in the room, pleased to see. But if you're York-based, you may have hopefully seen many of them around as well. But we're not doing this alone. We have a broad range of partners working with us. With a number of roles, providing metadata and data to the catalogue, providing advice on semantics, data standards, and inputting to the whole user needs and service requirements at the moment. So as you can see, we've got a real national spread: Wales, Scotland, England, technical partners, and some of the big national IROs, the independent research organisations, with a broad discipline spread from Geological Service through to National Gallery, Natural History Museum, and it's a real broad partnership. It's really extending the range of what we've traditionally archived in ADS. So I mentioned two catalogues. We launched these on the 1st of October this year. Please do go and have a play with them. The catalogue of data provides the fair repository, and I've listed there the initial data supplying partners who we're going to be loading data from over the next 12 months and more. And this is what it looks like we launched it simultaneously. Tim may mention the new ADS catalogue, but it's using the same infrastructure which we developed over the last 10 years in a couple of European research projects, Ariadne. But hopefully it provides an easy way to search things by where, what, or when. And this is built on top of a triple store, so we can surface things in multiple places. But there's the URL. The catalogue of services is designed to allow people who want to use Richard's facilities find the particular facility that they're interested in. So we're working with Manchester Metropolitan University, who are doing a lot of the data collection for this. And there's a screenshot and the links to that. So it's a simpler interface reflecting, actually there's about 30 resources in there at the moment, but this will gradually build up. But it's the various partners funded out of the Richest Fund. And then if you want to apply for this generous access funding to go and use some of these laboratories, you can do it via this catalogue once you've identified the techniques and the labs that you want to work with. The virtual research environments are coming a bit later. There we're working with the Science and Technologies Facility Council based in Warrington, Daresbury near Warrington. And these are just smoke and mirror screenshots at the moment. Those are going to be launched publicly in around June next year, we hope. But this is, so if you've got a massive data set and understand that people who do complicated radiocarbon calibration calculations, they need to set their laptops running for about 3 days in order to complete a job. This will mean instead they can upload their data to one of these really high-powered virtual research environments and do it in a few hours, or hopefully less than that. We've also launched what we're calling a small grants programme. The deadline for this is the 28th of November, so you're still in time to apply if you're interested in this, but we'll be launching a second call next year. And this has got two funding streams. One, to enable access to historic science and conservation resources. It's not aimed at digitisation, it's aimed at primarily bringing data sets that are already digital, but cleaning them so that they can be added to the catalogue. And then a second funding stream where you can pitch an idea to work with the brilliant software engineering team at Hartree to develop a virtual research environment for your own, support your own research. So we've got about £1 million in total available for these schemes over the two calls. So fantastic opportunities there to work with us. And that's it for me for that very lightning summary of the HSDS. And I'm now going to hand over to Tim to see what's new at the ADS.
Thank you very much, Julian. Colleen, good afternoon, everyone. My name's Tim. I'm the Assistant Director over both services. My job, along with Julian, is to sort of see where we're going, where we want to go, and what we want to do. And then my day job is making sure it all works under the hood. And as I always joke, it's my fault when things go wrong. I'm just going to very quickly give you a few highlights of what I think is people might want to know about the ADS side of things and the team as a whole. And when putting these slides together, I was reminded that when I became Deputy Director in 2019, we were 10 people, 7 of whom are still with us to this day. So they've put up with my poor sense of humour for quite a few years. We're now at 34, and as you can see at the bottom, we're currently recruiting or about to recruit mysterious 3 roles. So we'll be fully operational at 37 members of staff. And it's been really nice over this period of expansion to sort of welcome familiar faces. So students from York have been successful in applying for roles, but also people from outside York with different skill sets, different backgrounds, especially in heritage and conservation science. It also reminded me that when I started at the ADS, we sort of all did everything. We had managers, but then we had a group of staff that we called the curatorial and technical staff, or CATs. And so cats became sort of running joke, as it does as a small organisation. But I once remember our old comrade, Catherine Hardman, after a particularly bizarre meeting with the cats in which she received 6 separate answers to the same question. She sort of didn't storm out, but she walked out and said, "Never mind herding cats, it's like herding Komodo dragons." And off she walked. And anyway, I've got a very juvenile sense of humour, and so the Komodo dragons motif has been retained at the ADS ever since that day. So we now have teams that are focused on specific tasks. All the teams work together and overlap and collaborate, but we now have very specific teams. So headed by Katie, we have a collections team. We have 3 of the archivists with us today, and those are the people that actually accession data, check its quality, check the metadata, migrate data into long-term sustainable formats, upload metadata. All the hard work, as I put it, is done by this fantastic collections team. And you'll be hearing from 3 of them after I've finished rambling. We have a fantastic research and publication team headed by Wright that manage and work on the myriad of international research projects, which Holly and her team have been successful in bringing in. And those projects are really where we get a chance to collaborate and work with our friends overseas and learn from them. And that has been beneficial, as I shall show you in a second. We have an applications development and systems team. We're joined by one of them here, Dr. Paul Young. They do all the building and maintenance of all the applications, the website, the data catalog, all the ancillary services such as that are built and maintained by this fantastic team here. We now have a training and communications team. In the old days, people would say, "Tim, could you write a tweet about that?" I remember my first ever tweet on the ADS account received no likes because it was so dry. Under Dr. Nikki Garland, we have a small team now responsible for communicating our work, telling people what we're going to do, trying to tailor it to their needs, and also training. With digital becoming so sort of common now, a lot of the focus is on training the new generation early career researchers into data management, what metadata means, and so on. So that's that team as well. Finance and admin support. My overview of finance is shockingly bad, as this team will attest. With all these projects going on, we've now got a fantastic mini team that sort of check everything is running smoothly and helping us organise it. And then finally, my favorite team, the standards team. If you've ever wondered why the ADS say, well, we want data in that format, and that data needs to come with that metadata so it can be reused, it's because we've got a standards team now doing the research behind, also now looking at emerging formats or emerging technologies and trying to think, well, what data would work for long-term access and sustainability? We don't just make it up on the fly. All of this is heavily researched. That's the end of the Komodo dragons. What is also new is, as Colleen sort of hinted at, we've grown in terms of people, but now the amount of data we are getting in and now releasing is now going up massively. As you can see, last year we released nearly 14,000 data sets. There's also more data and more infrastructure than ever before. So you can see in terms of, this is something I've stolen from our fantastic annual report put together by the comms and training team. This isn't my work. In terms of the data we're storing, the amount of file formats, the amount of processes carried out. So these are the actual interventions done by the archivists, the cleaning of data, the tweaking of metadata, the converting files. There's a lot going on under the hood. And as you can see at the bottom, the technical infrastructure, Dr. Paul Young, that supports that is now bigger than it ever has been before. So what's new? Julian kindly mentioned the ADS data catalog. So learning from our friends by the Ariadne project, we've been able to deploy a new infrastructure across both services that replaced effectively the old ArcSearch. If anyone had used the ADS previously, we had a centralized data catalog. We loved ArcSearch, but it was massively out of date. In the autumn, we're able to put the new data catalog online that provides access to all the archives, grey literature reports, but also the metadata records supplied to us by heritage agencies across the UK. And it is UK-wide in terms of, if you want to find metadata from UK partners, Wales, Scotland, Northern Ireland, Isle of Man, even though that's not technically the UK, PAS as well. That is all under one catalogue, and it's the only place you can really access all this UK data in one place. It really is good. I always like running queries against the catalogue. This is just a query, for example, on causeway enclosures, my favourite Neolithic style of monument. So this is all the ADS held information relating to that specific type of monument, and all on a map. Everyone's spatial these days. You can now also filter by data type. We always knew that we weren't making the most of our metadata and letting people filter. So this is just a little example to find all the 3D data sets we hold, and then you can just go and access the data via the downloads. What's coming soon? Finally going to finish a project called Radiocarbon, or C14, which is an effort to collate all the radiocarbon dates from the islands of Ireland and Britain into one data set. We're probably now going to release in January, and that will be a really significant data set in terms of accessing all these radiocarbon dates. And it also is making good use of our fantastic applications team, who've been able to calibrate dates on the fly using the OTSCAL methods. So you get lovely radiocarbon curves and then mapping that to periods and chronologies. So really good stuff there. Also coming soon is an application known as ingest. When people want to submit data, they currently use an application called ADS Easy. That is eventually going to replace with this new ingest that generally makes it easier to deposit data and metadata, and it's all really firmly aligned on standards. So I think that will, I won't say revolutionize, but that will really see an increase, I think, in the amount of data we're getting and the quality of data and metadata. And then we're nearly at 100,000 fieldwork reports, often called grey literature. I think we're still slightly behind the Dutch and the Japanese in terms of the holdings we have, but it's been a really significant undertaking from very small roots. We've been able to build up this huge corpus of information. And here's just a map of all the grey literature in our data catalogue. And those points in the sea are real. Those are undersea cables. And then finally, it wouldn't be a talk from Tim without mentioning Oasis. Where do most of these reports come from? They come from an application known as Oasis. Some of you may have heard of it. We host it on behalf of UK heritage agencies, and it is the place where people can upload information about their project or event. And that means it can be accessed and reused by all these people. It isn't for data, it's purely for metadata, and if necessary, a report. The report makes its way onto the ADS for free, but it is now part of this huge ecosystem of partners where this information is reused. I always mention Oasis because a lot of students may have heard sort of mixed messages about it. It's free to use. If you are doing field work, including desk-based research, is the place to log the results and so other people know about it. And that is me. I've finished rapping. Over to the cats.
Thanks, Tim. And yeah, I'm going to be talking about the A14 Digital Archive, which is the archive for site and post-excavation data from archaeological work done along the A14 road between Cambridge and Huntingdon. It was a really massive open area excavation. About 230 hectares were excavated. So this was one of the biggest commercial archaeology projects undertaken in the UK. And yeah, the work was carried out largely by Molar Headland Infrastructure, but it was a big collaborative team that did the work. And it revealed some really interesting archaeology because it was such a large open area excavation. It was really uncovering whole landscapes, and there were a massive amount of samples and finds and small finds, and also a huge amount of data that we received as part of the project archive. So 100 and just over 170,000 files were deposited, and the kind of data that we got was very standard for archaeological data. So images comprised a large part of that, but we also got things like documents, GIS, geophysics, and photogrammetry data. So quite standard data types that we're used to getting at the ADS. So the big challenge really with this project was the volume of data to process and manage. because yeah, it's on a much larger scale to most of the ADS's collections. And something that has helped massively with that is over the past few years, we've made quite a few improvements to our collection management system and infrastructure to allow us to better cope with bigger collections. And that's mainly because of bigger infrastructure projects that we've had over the last few years, namely HS2. So we've developed tools that allow us to process larger data sets, which I think a few years ago would have been a bit beyond us. And yeah, in this case, that investment in our infrastructure really paid off. And yeah, archiving work is finished now, and the data was published at the beginning of this year. And it's currently presented by landscape block, and then by site, and then by data type. So you have to kind of know what you're looking for in order to access the data in that way. And something that was also requested for the project, and I think very necessary for a data set of this size, was a different way of searching and viewing the data. And that was done with a search interface and an interactive map. And there's also an interactive Internet Archaeology monograph, which links directly through to the archive. And there are data papers that support the archive as well and explain how to navigate it. And hopefully this will work. I'm going to try and just quickly show you the interface. So this was developed according to their specifications, and it's driven by the project database that they gave us, and users can search all the specialist data and post-excavation information that was created. And yeah, there's a huge amount of specialist data that can be queried, things like osteology data and small finds and contexts can be viewed online. So if I show you a record, users can view things like small finds.
Speak up just a little bit.
Sorry, small finds and specialist data from each context. And it's also possible to view the data in a more spatial way. So if I just load the map. So this is the GIS data that they gave us. And yeah, I think it's a really nice way of being able to visualize the data set separate to the archive. And if I just... And yeah, this has layers that can be turned on and off to kind of view the post-excavation data that was created by Moller Headland. And if I just reset the map. Bit slow because it's very big. To just kind of show you the scale of the project. So yeah, it's a really huge data set, and it's kind of acted as a pilot in a way for the HS2 data, which we're currently working on. And yeah, further down the line, we'll be thinking about how to present post-excavation data for HS2. So we'll likely be creating something similar to this in a few years' time. So yeah, that's the A14 digital archive.
My turn. I'll be talking about the Archaeology project. I am Marco Brunello. I am another digital archivist, and I've been working on this project. What is it? So the ArchiScan project is an AHRC funded project led by the University of Leicester, and it's been going on from 2019 to 2023. And the aim of this project was to develop an extensive data set of images of ceramic remains to train and test an AI system for the automatic identification and recording of pottery. And the type of pottery we're talking about is mainly terra sigillata. This is probably like 99.9% of what's in there. And they are ceramic remains from Britain. And yeah, so this data being sent to us some time ago. And there are basically three types of data we have here. Well, it's two things really, images and 3D models, but the images can be split in two different sets. One is sherds, and there are like around 28,000 of them from a from a variety of sources, including Museum of London Archaeology, University of Leicester Archaeological Services, with the London Trust, and Colchester in Ipswich Museum Services. There are 7 images taken for each sherd, which total around 197,000 JPEG images. The other type of data we have is vessels. So there are 384 of them. For this one, we've been given more than 7. For some of them, we have like tens or hundreds of images. So it goes up to 13,000 photographs. And yeah, and as I say, there are like some 3D models as well. We were given 64 3D models of different types of terra sigillata, and in total, this is like almost 700 gigabytes, which is a lot for one single collection. And as you can see here on the right, this is me on the day this data has been sent to me. And so, yeah, I did what a man has to do, which is processing this data. So I spent quite a few months on this. And yeah, like what I have to say is like this data came to us in a format that required quite a lot of processing, because the metadata wasn't given to us in the format we require. So I have to kind of piece it together from different spreadsheets and different type of inputs. And even the file names were kind of not exactly how we wanted. So I spent some time on it. And because of the mole of the amount of data, like our systems were, I couldn't just use our system out of the box. So there's been a lot of kind of work to do behind the scenes with the help of some colleagues, which I'll mention in a moment. But yeah, in the end, like, and there were also a lot of duplicates. So we have to kind of work on that as well. In the final archive, we managed to get around 208,000 images. And yeah, we migrated them to T for preservation, which means that we went from 700,000 gigabytes, sorry, how much was it? Yeah, 700 gigabytes. The preservation folder came up to a few terabytes, which again is quite a lot for one single collection. And the 3D models, we converted them to OBJ. And then, like, yeah, as I say, like, we piece together metadata and we compile it in a way that is consistent with our collections. And yeah, we kind of made relationship to each model. And then a lot of work went into creating a custom query. So probably not as fancy as the previous collection, but still, like, we managed to create a nice interface where, like, you can select whether you want to remodel images, and then if you select images, you go whole vessels or sherds, and then you can select the form. For whole vessels, you can select the subject keywords as well. And then you have like the output is different depending on you go images or sherds. And yeah, like for 3D models, you also have previews, both in the form of images and kind of 3D model like that. And yeah, I mean, I couldn't do this on my own, so I had some help from the team. Leonora helped me, shared with me the burden of migrating the images. Paul helped me with matching the object and kind of automate the things a bit behind the scene. Adam helped me with the interface. And yeah, and I thought I had to thank Dan from University of Leicester as well, because despite having this amount of data in a format that were not ideal for us, he's been very gracious as a depositor. He's been very collaborative. So yeah, all in all, I would say it went well. And this is not being released yet, but yeah, we were kind of cleared enough to talk about it at this stage. And that's me.
Hi, I'm Burcu, and I'm another one of the archivists. And I actually recently finished my master's here, the digital archaeology program. and then was snatched by the ADS. So I'm going to talk about the CVMA, not to be confused by the Combat Veterans Motorcycle Association, which is what comes up if you put CVMA on Google. But this is the corpus of medieval stained glass in Great Britain, which we released over the summer. So I really want to focus on 2 points about this archive today. One, this was essentially a rescue mission. So the CVMA project itself built their original website. It was an international research project that looked at medieval stained glass in Britain. And the website they developed between 2001 and 2004 gradually started to give errors, and the searchable image database started to collapse. So we stepped in, and more than 28,000 images forming the picture archive, and then a large collection of either out of print or unpublished documents were moved to the ADS. And if you now go to the correct CVMA website, it'll tell you that it's been moved to a new home at the Archaeology Data Service. And this archive really shows one of the things that ADS is really about, which is long-term and strong preservation of important cultural heritage assets that can be made publicly accessible for a long time. And then the other point I want to talk about is collaboration within the team, which my other colleagues have mentioned, but this goes a little bit full circle with Tim's presentation, in that between 2019 and 2025, pretty much everyone you've seen in Tim's presentation has worked on this. So what we did was we took each single downloadable object from the CVMA database, transferred it over to the ADS, tried to extract as much metadata as possible, but then there was also quite a lot of manually entering and figuring out what to do with the rest of the metadata. So the downloads page is the textual, the documents, the textual data, and then we've created a map search interface and a sorry, and two other types of searches for the picture archive, one of which I haven't included here, but is you can search by county in Britain. And so the archivists have worked on collecting the data and metadata and curating that. And the developers team have helped us with creating the interactive interfaces. If this works. Oop. Want to show you one of my favorite bits of this archive, which is, and I should say we try to keep this as original as possible to the original CVMA website, which had connections to Iconclass, which is a classification system for the content of images. But what you can do on here is, I don't know if you're searching for iconography of Mary, for example. First of all, the query results will give you everything. That includes Mary, both the original CVMA vocabulary that they've put and the Iconclass one. And you can also create a CSV file of all the information that we hold on everything that has Mary. But what you can also do is, by clicking here, you can go to every image object we hold that has the specific icon class subject term, the Virgin Mary, as opposed to it might also be Madonna or Mary with Christ, etc. Or you can click here, which I won't do now, because you need to log into icon class. But that'll take you to the icon class website with the Virgin Mary, and that'll give you access to all iconography, internationally, all iconography that was linked to the Virgin Mary subject heading. Yeah, everywhere in the world. And I think that is really cool. Yeah, that's me.
Very nice.
And I apologize. I have a little bit of video and it's just not happy to be shared from here. So I stopped sharing.
Yeah, you should be able to just stop again. Yeah.
Just switch over to the laptop. Oh crap! I need to grab my adapter.
Oh.
Well, everyone's gonna see my secret shame. Yeah. Right, so are people seeing that? And
I think you'll have to turn it from the microphone, but turn on.
are you seeing that full screen or is it?
It's not full screen.
It's not full screen. Okay. Yep. And then if I
We
just
still see a slide preview of the other thing, but probably fine.
let's I can fix that as well. Oh my goodness.
It's fine, it's good.
It's good. Okay. So I just need to turn on my microphone, presumably. Or are you hearing me?
I won't be able to tell until you just turn on your microphone. Your Zoom microphone.
Yeah, so
Okay, now can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, great.
So
So
I
I apologize
for having to do this
switch over.
Hold on a second. Mute your Zoom again, sorry.
Mute
my Zoom,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Sorry, it goes away every time I try and.
Mouse over it. Yep. No, can you hear me?
Okay, good.
Yes. Okay. All right. So yes, apologies for having to switch over, but I wanted to share some video with you, and it just wasn't working apart from on my desktop. So as Tim pointed out, so I deal with the research side of the organization, and essentially ADS very much does participate in research. Not only is sort of the practice-led work that we do useful when it comes to research, but we also very much try and take on board the things that we learn through this research into the work that the ADS does as part of its sort of regular operations. So I'm going to talk about one small aspect of one project, which is creative interventions from a project that's called Tetrarchs. Thank you. So just a very, very quick background. The purpose of the Tetrarchs project was very much to sort of look at this sort of central tension that we felt was being created between the idea that on the one hand, we're meant to be, as a digital archive, we're meant to be preserving digital resources. But we're also constantly, there's constant dialogue around saying, well, this data should be usable to much wider audiences and creative practitioners and other sorts of areas. And basically also the advent of the FAIR principles, which I think Julian would agree that we've spent probably, you spent probably 30 years working on the findable and the accessible, and at least 15 years on the interoperable. But getting to this, we almost sort of had to get to this point to really think about the fact that now it's time to really think about reusable. What does reusability look like? And that we need to look at all of those things as a tetrarchy, that they have to be engaged with equally. So essentially, there was this tension between the way that ADS tries to operate. We're trying to work to standards. We're trying to do things in ways that are centralized and controlled so that people can cross-search them. And that it very much reflects the way archaeologists work, so the way that the data creators work, the way that we're used to organizing our data, and the way we're used the terminology that we are taught to use to talk about our data. And then you have another layer, which is archives like the ADS, where basically we're trying to make sure we do this work to standards. And so we're not necessarily thinking about how that data might be used in new and innovative ways. So the goal of the project was basically trying to figure out if we could resolve some of this, resolve this tension, resolve this area. And lots of people over the years have certainly said we should be doing this. And we just sort of decided, okay, well, we're going to be the ones to actually see if we can figure out what that looks like in practice. And it's probably going to be messy and it's going to be difficult. But the only way to start answering this requirement was to actually try and see what it would look like. So, and of course, archaeology is perfect because we're early adopters when it comes to any sort of methodology. So this was very much something that was set up with a former lecturer at York, Sarah Perry, who then went on to MOLA and now is at UCL, and myself and Colleen and James Stewart Taylor, to try to sort of frame this whole project together. We also had a range of international partners as well. So partners in Lithuania, Slovenia, Sweden, and 2 partners in Belgium. And this is sort of the way that we set up the project. And what's key about this, about what I'm about to show you, is that so there was a whole kind of workflow that we were looking at, but in terms of the work packages that were around the data capture strategies and data experimentation, this meant field work. So this was about data capture that was actually happening in the field as a key part of this. So I'm going to talk about one small aspect of it, which is these creative interventions. And essentially what we were trying to do was see not only how creative practitioners would want to potentially reuse the data we were creating, but what happens if we embed creative practitioners into the data creating team. So this is one of those 2 outcomes. So the woman with her hair tied up is Chloe de Cler, who is from Belgium. And she is an absolutely wonderful artist who came out to the excavations that James Stewart Taylor is co-director of at Tomb Bassarin in the north of Greece. And she created these beautiful, essentially tarot cards with these amazing paintings that all came out of her time working in the field, being with archaeologists, and being and then going out into the community. It's a small rural community. So working with the people in the local village to understand how they situate themselves and how they think about the material culture that they have and how that relates to the archaeology in the area. And it was, so this is basically her showing it to all the ADS staff in our offices, which was wonderful. The other artist that came to Tumbassaran was Eloise Moody, and she was so intrigued by the use of geotextile that she decided as the way that we, you know, basically at the end of a season put the geotextile in, certainly in Greece, to mark the end of the interface. And she decided that she was going to create a massive tapestry embroidered on geotextile that was the result, and this was very much her interactions with the archaeologists themselves. And she created, and I don't know if you can read that, but it says, in 22 karat gold leaf, all of it happened and some of it was true, which was her interpretation of all of this time she spent speaking to and interviewing the different archaeologists. And then there's Italian silk embroidery in black on the sides that are the quotes that were the most evocative for her, that she felt we said. And interestingly, we can't identify ourselves.
I could.
You could. You were the, okay, you're the only, you could identify yourself or you could identify other people.
I think both.
Okay, you've got superpowers then, because nobody else could. But again, we were really fortunate in the ADS office that Eloise, we were the first to see it sort of unveiled, and this is her kind of showing it to the staff in the office for the first time. We did have an opening here in Kings Manor. So some of you, and I know some of you may have actually come and seen these on display, which Colleen wonderfully organized for us.
Co-organized.
Co-organized. And yeah, you can't really see the scale, the size of the tapestry, the scale of the tapestry isn't obvious. Well, you could there you've got your person so that you could see just how absolutely huge it was. But it was wonderful to have them here and have them talk about their work. We also, Eloise also came back to Tumba for a second year and did something that was much more community facing, community focused. All those little, in the left-hand photo, all those little red envelopes that you see are open out or wonderfully folded and open out into this sort of narrative about the Tumbassaran site, all in Greek, along with some questions for people sitting around together at a meal, just ask each other and talk about. And she had them all, a local baker baked them all into bread. And the semicolon is a question mark in Greek. So these are all question mark bread with questions for them. And everybody came on the Saturday morning, and for €1 they bought their question mark bread and took it home. And we hope had a nice conversation. And then finally, the whole purpose of creating that geotextile, that beautifully embroidered geotextile, was to bury it at the end of the season. And this wasn't just the end of the season, this was the end of the excavation portion of this project that James has led for the last 5 years, I think. And this was the final morning, and we all gathered at the site at dawn. And nobody had to be there, but everybody was. And basically, and you can see a lovely Neolithic structure there at the top of the trench. The part that was sort of excavated lower down, there were disarticulated human remains. At this site, they've found the first sort of Neolithic burials in the Strymon Valley, which is one of the few sort of Neolithic areas where that hasn't really been explored when it comes to transit areas across the European continent. So some really interesting things have come out of this excavation over the years. But But essentially the tapestry was, after also interviewing with the Greek team, and Eloise furiously embroidered additional quotes from the Greek team to make sure that we were all represented, we buried it. And it was really emotional and surprising. It was fun. It was funny. The lovely lady on the right-hand side in the middle is Dimitra Malamidou. She is the head of the Ministry of Culture for this region, and has been for the last 30 years. So this is also kind of coming to an end of her incredible career. Doing absolutely, and she was the person who chose the site, actually decided that this was the site that should be excavated. And yeah, basically, are we doing on time?
Yeah,
we're out of time.
Gotta
wrap up. Yeah, anyway, so yeah, just incredible work. Once Eloise got it all completely the way that she wanted it, we all buried it. And and James said, once we sort of talked about it, James said it's time to bury ourselves, and we did. So
And there will be an archive.
yes, yes, and it's context number 960. We filled in a context sheet for it, and it will be part of the archive. And that's it.
So much. I think we have time for one single question. One question. So whoever has a really fantastic single question, please. High standard.
Stunned silence.
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, I just want to thank you for the team. It was really lovely.
Oh, sorry. Can you come up here and speak into the microphone? So people online. Yeah.
Here's how to
Just right here. Yeah.
You know, I just want to appreciate, as a person who just worked always with heritage and just involved with heritage, that did what you did is just, and what you do as well. It's just lovely to hear about it. I'm just wondering about the future of the HSDS, and I just considering have you considered about the future of HSDS? Is there any possibility that the researchers directly could upload their research into any system, and would allow them to more easily access to informations? Because I know that then it needs some validations of data after that. But is there any infrastructure in HSDS that we can do?
Well, I'll answer that
Thank you.
very quickly. Yes. If you follow our guidance and standards, and using the ingest system that Tim mentioned that will be launched, will be the easiest way to upload data.
Because dear professor, it's not easy to validate. It's not just about uploading a file, it's more than this, a meaning behind any artifacts and object which should be preserved and should be digitalized. So is there any kind of training and monitoring during this process or not?
There will be training provided that is we're going to be advertising online, and then a lot, as you may have gathered, a lot of the work that the archivists do is not validating the quality of your research, but the quality of the data and making sure that it fits into our formats. But we can talk after in more detail.
Well, thank you so very much. It was great to hear about all of the very active, very interesting research going on at the Archaeology Data Service. So one last round of applause. Thank you so much. And next week we'll have Mark Altaweel speaking on using AI in analyzing environmental archaeological data. But also next Thursday, as part of our regular departmental research forum, I really urge you to come to Guy Schofield's lecture with Dawn Hadley, and they'll be speaking about this really great digital intervention that they made for the Yorkshire Museum. So we look forward to seeing that. Thank you very much.